Hi, Martin here. In my last video on Crown Land camping, I promised that I would explain how you can identify and locate Crown Land, how you can find a route to it, and how you can obtain GPS coordinates to put in your GPS device to help you get there. So that's what we're going to look at today. Using my computer and an internet connection, I'm going to show you some online resources, some online tools to identify Crown Land and plot a route and get those GPS coordinates. I'll also show you some books and a couple of other things in connection with Crown Land that you should know. The first tool I want to show you is a website, and I'll provide a link to this website in the description box below. This site is called Ontario's Crown Land Use Policy Atlas. It's strictly a web browser application, and it's only for identifying Crown Land in Ontario. There may be comparable utilities for other provinces, but I'm not aware of them. But for Ontario, this is what you're going to need. And what it shows you is a map of Ontario here. And at the top there are some tools, some buttons to click on for zooming in, zooming out, and repositioning the map. I'm going to click on Zoom In, and then click over here to zoom in to an area just west of Algonquin Park in central Ontario, near Huntsville, which is the area that I live in. And when you do that, you'll see it'll say loading map, and it can take several seconds to load and refresh a new map. It's a bit frustrating this way, this utility. It can sometimes take 30 seconds to load an image, but this is going pretty well. All right, and I'm going to zoom in a little further. Now at this resolution, we can already see some differences in color, and it's the color differences that tell us what is Crown Land from private land from provincial park. For instance, this green area that you can see here, that's all Algonquin Provincial Park. There are other parks in the area, and there are areas that are marked as conservation areas. There's a legend over here on the side. If you click on the Legend tab, all those colors come up, and that's how I'm able to tell what's what. You'll see a kind of whitish beige color right around here, all around Algonquin Provincial Park, and in many parts of Ontario. And that is what we're looking for. That's the Crown Land. The further north you go, the more of it you will find, of course. And then this kind of bluish-gray stuff, that's all private land. Let's zoom in a little further. Now, if you look in the legend, you won't find anything that says Crown Land. There's no specific color for Crown Land, and that's because this Land Use Policy Atlas is intended to show you the different sorts of Crown Land that there are and distinguish it from the private land. For instance, Algonquin Provincial Park here in green is, strictly speaking, a type of Crown Land. It's just that it's a type of Crown Land that has all kinds of restrictions and rules and regulations. Those restrictions and rules and regulations are what make this type of Crown Land a provincial park, as opposed to a non-operational provincial park or something else, or a conservation area. The kind of Crown Land that we're looking for when we talk about Crown Land and Crown Land camping is specifically something called general use area. Anything that has that color, that's the stuff that we're looking for, so that we can go paddling and camping and hiking and practice our bushcraft on and travel freely through. And so that's what we're looking for, is that this kind of color that you see here. Let's zoom in a little closer to where I live. So at this resolution, we're close to the Huntsville area here, and we can see that there's all kinds of Crown Land. First of all, there's Arrowhead Provincial Park, which is a small provincial park just north of Huntsville. But that's not the kind of Crown Land we're looking for. We're looking for a general use area, but there's all kinds of general use areas. There's a nice big one up there and some smaller ones. These sort of long rectangular shapes, these are 100-acre parcels of Crown Land. But when I look just north of Arrowhead Provincial Park here, there's an upside-down T shape, and that is Crown Land that is bordering a provincial park. And that was of special interest to us because one of the difficulties in getting to Crown Land is very often there's no road leading to it, or there's no waterway passing through it, and so you can't get to it without trespassing on private property. So this was promising to us because we thought, well, we don't live very far from Arrowhead Provincial Park. We could go there, park our vehicle, walk through the provincial park, and walk right out of it and into the Crown land. But let's take a closer look and see what we see. Now at this resolution, we can see a little better some features of this Crown land. For instance, we can see that there are lakes around it, and best of all, there's water running through it. There seems to be a river that flows right into the Crown land, out of it again into Arrowhead Provincial Park, and a number of other little tributaries. And if you're looking for Crown land, it's really nice to see water running through it. That means potentially you could paddle into it by canoe. And if not, then at least there'll be a place where you can obtain drinking water, possibly a place to fish, that sort of thing. So that's very encouraging. We also noticed that just off Highway 11 here, there's a road that heads east towards that Crown land. Unfortunately, it comes to a dead end. It seems to stop right in the middle of somebody's private property here. So there doesn't seem to be any way across from here to there. At this resolution, we can see even more detail. And I should mention another important feature. You'll notice that there's various colors, and then these hash marks here, and there are these numbers here. And let me explain what those are. If you click on the little I here, I for information, and then click on a piece of Crown land or park or anything where there's a number, over on the right, you'll see policy reports. These numbers correspond to individual parcels of types of Crown land. This number here, G362, which corresponds to this Crown land that we're looking for, here's a short profile about it, and you'll notice that it says designation, general use area. And you can also get a more detailed report by clicking over here where it says English or French. You can get a report in either language. And the report appears here, and it will give you a brief description of the land, the intended usage, and any other restrictions that might be imposed. What you want to look for in this report is where it says recreation activities and facilities. Under activity, where it says Crown land recreation permitted, yes, that's what we're looking for. This is the type of Crown land. This is this general use area that we were talking about, where you're permitted to walk through it, hike through it, paddle through it, camp on it, collect wild edibles. You can hunt and fish on it freely, provided that you have permits and it's in season. So I'll just close out of this policy report and take us back to the policy atlas. And speaking of this map, when you saw me in the last video walking around with a paper map, it was actually a printed copy of this. It was in black and white. You're seeing it in color here, but it's the same map. And on the paper copy, though, I had something extra. I had some markers, some push pins at the corners of this that indicated the boundaries, the specific markers of the boundary. And I had the GPS coordinates for every one of those, and I had those entered into my GPS. So now I'm going to show you how you can put push pins to mark the boundaries of Crown land and get the GPS coordinates for your GPS device. And the value of that is, with your GPS device, you can now make your way towards the Crown land. Your GPS device will know where it is now, and you'll know when you're leaving an area of non-Crown land or non-general use Crown land into an area that is Crown land. So there's a tool in here for marking those boundaries. It's right up here. There's a little push pin device here, a little push pin icon, and it says label a point. If you click on that, and then click on whatever point you want to label, in this case I want to mark the southwest corner of that Crown land. If I click there, a dialog box appears on the right, and it says label. That's so that you can label that point, and you can put anything in here. But what I'm going to do is click this thing here that says label with map coordinate. And when I click that, the actual GPS coordinates, the latitude and longitudinal coordinates, appear right here for that point. Now I could just jot that down on a piece of paper, but I actually want to store these into my GPS later, so and copy them into another utility eventually. So I'm actually going to just copy and paste this into any text editor. And there it is. Now I'm going to label this number 1. This is coordinate number 1. So that's going to be coordinate number 1. But if I were to just click add push pin, it would put the push pin there, and then this long coordinate would appear there, and it would be very, very cumbersome. So I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to call it number 1. And click add push pin. The push pin will appear right here with the number 1 beside it as a label. And there it is. And I'm going to do the same thing over here for number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, and so on. So I've added all of my push pins, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I have taken all those coordinates and I've put them all here. I can now enter those into my GPS device, and I can print off this map, and with this map now I'll have a visual representation of where I'm going as I'm following these GPS coordinates. Now, this is a pretty respectable map. The problem is it doesn't give me a whole lot of detail. Let's look at another tool now that will give us way better resolution and a better sense of what we can expect when we get there. And that tool is Google Earth. Now you may already know all about Google Earth, but in case you don't, I'll just say that Google Earth is a website and an application that is a computer program that you can download to your own computer. And it's an interactive map similar to the last one. You just click on it and you can zoom in. But it's made out of innumerable satellite photos, satellite images stitched together, knitted together to give you a very, well, almost a seamless satellite view of anywhere on the Earth. Now, Google Earth will never show you where Crown Land is, but you know where the Crown Land is because you've been using the policy atlas that we were just looking at. And I'm just zooming in here where we were before. This is the same area. This is Arrowhead Provincial Park that we were looking at before, and we know from the last utility that right up here somewhere there is Crown Land, and we can zoom in here and get a much better look. Now I'm actually getting a kind of photographic view of this area. And one of the nice features of Google Earth is you can zoom in and zoom in and zoom in and get truly accurate representations of what you can expect when you get there. Moreover, it has a 3D view. You can tip it around and rotate it, and you can see the area that you would be going into. You can see the elevation changes, you can see where lakes, rivers and tributaries, marshes, ponds. So you can see how valuable this would be when you're trying to go there, when you're trying to plot a route in. The problem, though, is with Google Earth, you don't know where are the boundaries of the Crown Land. But Google Earth allows you to use a pushpin function, just like the other program, and you can mark GPS coordinates. And using the information that we recorded here from the Policy Atlas, we can now add pushpins in Google Earth and get the same map that we had before, but this time with a much better resolution and three-dimensional views. So now I'm going to show you how you would add coordinates in Google Earth that correspond to the same coordinates that were in the Crown Land Policy Atlas. I need to add a coordinate here and roughly in that upside down T shape. And how do I do it? Well, you can just click on Add Place Mark that looks like a pushpin icon up here, and it will put a place mark somewhere. But where it puts it is random. But here you can specify the latitude and longitude that you want. So what I can do is I can go to my first coordinate and I can copy the latitude in, paste it in there, and I can take the second half, the longitude, copy that, and paste it in here. And notice, once I've got those coordinates in, it puts them there. And that is my position number 1, just like in the other, and I can put more in, and that's what I'm going to do next. So I've added my push pins that mark the boundaries, so I now have the same boundaries here in Google Earth that I have in the other, and of course my GPS coordinates are already in here, so I could print this off and I could have a 3D rendering, color, high resolution satellite photo of the area that I want to explore. You can also add lines around here. There's a function for that, and you can measure specific distances. There are tools for that as well. And this is what it looks like once the lines have been added. So what's the point of doing all of this again in Google Earth? Well, besides the fact that you have a better visual representation and a 3D model of the topography of where you're going, you can identify interesting features and use Google Earth to get coordinates to those places. For instance, here's a nice little pond. This is a nice little lake, but it's on private property. But there's a pond right here in the middle of Crown land. I'd like to go there. Well, I can put a placement there. I just go up to placement and position it wherever I want, and wherever I position this, the coordinates change. I can put it smack dab in the middle of that pond and call it pond. And I can even click here and choose a different icon. I'll choose some wavy lines to represent water. I can make those a little smaller or bigger. And there we go. Now, I have those GPS coordinates. And I can enter that into my GPS. And when I explore this piece of land, I can now find that. I don't have to walk every acre of this 400 acres of Crown land. I can just walk in a straight line right to it. Or any other interesting feature here. This marsh here, there might be a nice campsite along this river. There's some nice ravines here. There's some high points that will have some very nice hardwood areas. Whatever I like. This is how I actually found this piece of Crown land, and I'm going to explain to you now how I actually found a way in here. You'll recall I mentioned that because it bordered a provincial park, we thought, oh, it'd be nice, we could take a hike in here. We could park in a provincial park, walk through the Arrowhead Provincial Park, walk north right into this Crown land and spend a day hiking around in here. But we noticed something even better. Remember there was a road, Rockhaven Road, that we saw that came to a dead end? Well, in Google Earth, it doesn't come to a dead end. When you look in Google Earth, you see the road ends here, but then there's a very, very, very faint straight line here. It goes right into the Crown land and into the provincial park and so forth. Well, you'll recall in my last video, we parked right here at the end of this road, and this was an old logging road. It's still a municipal road you're allowed to travel through. There's a right-of-way there. It takes you right into the Crown land, and once you're in there, you can do what you like. So Google Earth can help you find places to park. And why is this better than parking in Arrowhead Provincial Park? Well, if I park in Arrowhead Provincial Park, hike through that park and into this Crown land in order to camp, I'm still paying for parking. I'm still paying to camp, but the whole point of Crown land camping is it's free, it's unscheduled, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. I can actually leave my vehicle here on the side of the road, hike into the Crown land, and camp here indefinitely, and it's all free. I also want to show you other areas of Crown land. As you can see here, everywhere I put placements, these are all areas of Crown land that we've explored in the area. Here's an area that I haven't explored yet that I intend to explore shortly. And this one, this area of Crown land, it's kind of hard to get to, but there's a lake here and there's a waterway that makes its way all the way there. And I could only have found this using Google Earth. It would have been very hard to do that with a conventional map. I've actually driven down this road and parked here at this little beach, and this is a place where you can launch your boat, park your vehicle there, put your canoe in here, travel along this little waterway here. It's got a number of tributaries feeding into it, and I can just keep going, paddling along here, paddling along, right into the Crown land. And because I've plotted this, and I'll have the coordinates in my GPS, and I've marked a coordinate right there, I'll know when I cross into the Crown land. I'll know the moment I do. And this is quite nice. There's a big lake here. And I can see that the water goes all the way here, and then, oops, I'm going to have to portage into this lake. But this would be a nice little spot to camp. If you've seen my solo igloo camping series of videos, you might recall that that also took place on Crown land. I found this Crown land where I shot those videos using the Crown Land Policy Atlas. I entered the coordinates in my GPS, and then I came here into Google Earth and I marked the boundaries of the Crown land. There's a section of Crown land here, that's just a 100-acre area, but everything up here is all Crown land. And using Google Earth, I was able to find that, yep, there's a road where I could drive along, and I could park there. I left my vehicle on the side of this dirt road, and I just hiked right in here in winter with my pulk, and I shot a series of videos on igloo camping. And there's a number of interesting features here, and I didn't want to forget where they were, so while I was there, I took some GPS coordinates, and when I got home, I entered those coordinates in here. So the next time I want to go back there, I'll be able to find those places. It's going to look completely different when I go at this time of year compared to when I was there in winter, but I'll still be able to find those very spots, thanks to Google Earth, this, and the Crown Land Policy Atlas. One important difference to keep in mind between Google Earth and the Crown Land Policy Atlas is Google Earth is not just a website that streams these video or these images, satellite images, to your computer. It's also a computer program that you install on your computer. And so all of these points are stored on my computer. So when I close out of Google Earth and go back into it, those points are always there, exactly where I left them. I can delete any I want or add more at will, but they're stored and they're safe. The Crown Land Policy Atlas, that's not the same. When I close this program, all these points are gone for good. And that's another reason why you want to record them, write them down someplace so you can put them in your GPS. Otherwise, you'll have to go back and re-enter all of them. And now I want to turn to something else. So those are the online tools that you can use to locate and identify Crown land and get to it, mark the boundaries, and plot a route through it. And the same thing can be done for plotting a canoe route. Those are a little harder to find, finding all those nice waterways that are interconnected for a nice long canoe route, but they're out there. And remember that where you park your car and put your canoe in the water, that doesn't have to be right on Crown land. That can be somewhere like on a public beach or a public river, and you just have to be able to paddle to the Crown land from wherever you put your boat in the water. And in fact, that's even better. It's even better if you have to actually paddle a ways to get to the Crown land than if you or anybody else can just drive to it, because that way those areas are more secluded. They're more yours to enjoy. So keep that in mind. If the prospect of heading off into the bush this way makes you a little trepidatious, that's perfectly understandable. But there's another way that you can explore Crown land without actually figuring it all out for yourself and identifying those places on your own without anyone ever having been there before, as far as you know. This isn't how we started. We started with some actual paddling guidebooks with routes through Crown land. These tools didn't even exist when we started exploring Crown land. There's a fellow by the name of Callan, and he's written a whole series of Paddler's Guide to various parts of Ontario. Gone Canoeing is the first one we ever picked up, actually. I named my YouTube channel in honor of that. And these books are terrific. They contain all kinds of routes through provincial parks and unmaintained and unmanaged provincial parks, and of course general use area Crown land. And they're terrific. The problem with these books, though, of course, is that they have to be updated periodically, and in some cases, some of the Crown land routes that he describes and identifies are no longer general area use Crown land. They're now operating provincial parks or some other kind of park where you have to book and pay fees and make reservations and that sort of thing. So what I would recommend is take a look at his latest book, The Top 50 Canoe Routes of Ontario. Um, it's much more up to date. It includes a lot of the stuff that was in his earlier books, plus some new routes. And the nice thing about these books is he describes the route. It'll have the level of difficulty and how much skill you'll need in case if there's a river trip or rapids or something like that. How long it should take on average to do the route, how many portages there are, how long the portages are. You'll have a nice description of the route, what he saw there, what he experienced, historical information about the area. And then, of course, he's got nicely illustrated maps that show you the exact route that he took, how long the portages are, exactly where they are so that you don't miss them. When there are campsites, invariably there are established campsites on Crown land. You want to use those and not create a bush camp if there's an existing one. He indicates where all of those are in his maps, along with portages, beaver dam liftovers, rapids, if any, and how difficult the rapids are. And then at the end of each section, oh, and of course he indicates how to get to these places, driving instructions to get there, and where you can park your vehicle. And then at the end of each section, of each route, he's got an area here that tells you whether it's a provincial park or if it's Crown land and if there's any fees involved or if you need to book or anything like that. He also lists local outfitters in the area, so you can get more information on those areas, or if you need to rent equipment, for instance, if you don't have your own canoe and you need to rent a canoe when you get there. And lastly, he's got an area here that says topographic maps, and that's where he describes specifically which official topographic map you need. When you go off in Crown land, you don't just want to go off with something like this. This is a Google Earth satellite image that I took, and from, well, as I showed you, that I printed off, and then I just had it laminated at Staples so that I could bring it with me for reference when I was camping. But this isn't good enough. What you need is a proper topographical map that will show you all the features, not just of the specific immediate area that you're going, but the larger area. And that's important because if you ever get lost or stray from the area that you're going or intending to go to, you'll never find your way out without a good map. So make sure that you have a good topographical map. And you can get these from Maps Canada. And I'll post, or I'll include a link in the bottom of the description box where you can get these. That's important for safety. There's another important safety note that I should mention, and that is always tell someone where you're going and how long you're going to be out there. That's true in any camping trip, even if you're going into a backcountry area in a provincial park. But if you're going on Crown land, it's even more important because you're unlikely to bump into anybody who can help you. They're more remote and there's fewer people out there. So make sure that you tell somebody exactly where you're going. Give them the GPS coordinates. Give them a copy of your maps and any satellite images that you took so they know exactly where you're going. And be sure that you tell them exactly when they can expect you to be out and when you're going to call them. And make sure that you choose someone who is responsible, someone who, if you don't call, will call for help on your behalf. Okay, that's absolutely crucial. Now, I hope I haven't put a scare in you with that. That's just a sort of an ordinary precaution with respect to backcountry camping. I'm hoping that you will actually give Crown land camping a try if you haven't. A lot of people have heard about it and never knew how to find it and where to go. I've given you a couple of different avenues now so that you can do that, and I think that you'll find it really, really satisfying. My wife and I started doing this well over a decade ago, and it's just so rewarding to go out and find a route that you plotted yourself, and with maps that you printed out yourself, and go out there and not know where the campsites are, not know exactly where the portages are, and have to sort of read the landscape and look at the maps and the satellite images that you took and figure out where would a portage be, where should it be to get from this lake to that lake. And the portages tend to be a little rougher. There's no one maintaining them except your fellow canoeists out there and hikers. But it's really rewarding, and it's nice to find an established campsite in the middle of nowhere. And it's even more fun sometimes to make a bush camp when you need to, when there isn't a campsite, and you go, well, let's make do with what we got. It feels like a more primitive and authentic and traditional way of camping. And I think you'll really enjoy it, and you'll really enjoy the fact that you don't have to pay, that you didn't have to book way in advance. You can just call it, forget it, weather's crummy, let's not go. You're not missing out. You can always go the next weekend. If the weekend following looks great, it's a 4-day weekend, you can say the weather's great, let's just go to this place, because it's not going to be booked. You're not going to be shut out. You can always go there. So I hope that you'll give that a try and that you'll enjoy it. And if you have any questions about Crownland camping or any of the tools that I've shown you, please post your questions or write to me. I'd be happy to answer them. Please don't ask me to plot a route for you. A number of people in the past have asked me if I could design a route for them close to where they live and stuff like that, and I've done that on a couple of occasions. It's not very rewarding for me because I'm not the one going on the trip, and it deprives them of the gratification of actually figuring out their own route and going out there and exploring their own route. So do give it a try, and I hope you found this helpful. I know it was a long video and not the most visually stimulating thing, but I think there was enough information here to get you started. And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.